Zog prided himself on his objectivity, cold and detached data analysis. As a xenoanthropologist with the Galactic Cooperative, he'd studied countless species across the cosmos, dissecting their cultures and psychologies. This mission, though, studying Homo sapiens of planet Earth, disturbed something in him. The humans were a whirlwind, a chaotic symphony of feelings, joy, fear, rage, and love. It was as beautiful as it was terrifying, and their history, it was like watching a star go supernova, a brilliant and violent eruption. Zog's initial plan was to observe through their vast libraries of media and literature. It was a logical approach. But it wasn't enough. These books and films were like filtered sunlight, not the scorching heat of the star itself. He needed something closer, rawer. With some reluctance and a strange anticipation, Zog began interacting with individual humans. At first, his observations remained clinical. He catalogued their peculiar facial expressions into a detailed database, cross-referencing them with their audible vocal tones and body language. He'd watch couples fall in love, noting tiny shifts in posture and fleeting eye contact. He'd even attended their raucous sporting events, dissecting the near-tribal frenzy of both winners and losers, recording how a single play could cause grown men to weep with despair or shriek in unhinged delight. It wasn't the individual emotions that undid him. It was the sheer chaotic complexity of how they intermingled, layered, and reacted upon each other. It was joy tinged with a bittersweet melancholy, deep love suddenly flaring into a blinding, possessive rage, and grief so stark and profound that it threatened to break the very body housing it. The more data he collected, the more tangled the knot in his mind became. It was like trying to map the trajectory of 1,000,000 individual particles in a hurricane. He'd spend sleepless nights staring at his meticulously crafted charts, but true understanding eluded him. At some point, detachment became impossible. He started mirroring the gestures of humans he observed, a confused twist to his mouth, or a furrow in his brow that mirrored those around him. Zog was accustomed to slipping seamlessly into and out of the cultures he studied, but this was different. This was an infection. The dreams came next. Not his own dreams, but fragments of others. He'd wake drenched in sweat, the lingering terror of a battlefield, not his own still clutching at him, or his alien heart would ache from the loss of a child he'd never met. It was empathy pushed beyond its limits, an overload that threatened to burn out his carefully calibrated circuits. And then there was the laughter. Zog had never understood humor until he felt it bubble inside him, a sudden, ridiculous burst of amusement triggered by a stranger's offhand joke. His neural processor tried to dissect the precise mechanisms to quantify what had triggered such a primal response, but it was fruitless. It defied logic, and somehow the feeling lingered, a lightness in his core that made the world just a bit brighter. Even the report he was compiling for the Galactic Cooperative began to shift. No longer mere lists of observations, it became infused with subjective descriptions like a visceral display of courage and a love so potent it seems to transcend physical reality. His colleagues would be horrified. This wasn't science anymore. The breaking point happened amidst the bustle of a crowded human marketplace. An old woman, face etched with a lifetime of some unidentifiable emotion, smiled at him. It was a simple smile, barely curving her lips, yet it pierced straight through Zog's carefully constructed barriers. He saw galaxies swirling in that smile, births, deaths, wars, loves, triumphs, regrets, an entire cosmos contained within a single, unremarkable human being. The sheer weight of it all shattered him. Zog stumbled back, away from the old woman, his world tilting and blurring. He didn't know how he retreated to his quarters. He vaguely remembers flinging data charts across the room, their precise lines mocking the storm raging within him. He wanted to scream, weep, and laugh all at once, but no sound emerged. It was like a child trying to comprehend astrophysics, and his mind could not simply process his feelings. That's how his superiors found him, curled into a trembling ball on the floor. He barely registered their concerned voices and the cool touch of medical instruments against his skin. His report was a mess of half-finished observations, incoherent ramblings, and a single phrase scrawled over and over across the last page: "It's too much." Zog knew they'd label him compromised, failed. Maybe they were right. He hadn't just failed at completing his mission. Somewhere between sterile categorization and visceral experience, he seemed to have failed at being a xenoanthropologist altogether. Yet, A strange and defiant spark of something close to hope burned within the wreckage of his mind. They shipped him back to his homeworld, and the report was sealed and labeled confidential. Potential hazard. He wasn't isolated or confined, but his peers gave him a wide berth. They whispered, of course. Words like unstable, unfit, and contaminated reached his ears, carrying on their antiseptic hallways cool air. He didn't care. He barely noticed. Zog spent his days in a small garden, not tending to the meticulously ordered flora like a good xenoanthropologist should, but simply sitting amidst the riot of color and scent. He'd pluck a flower, stare at its intricate design, and feel the distant echo of wonder within himself. It was faint now, battered, but undeniably present. One cycle, a senior researcher, a mentor he'd once respected, cornered him. Discussed poorly masked behind a facade of professional concern, the elder scientist demanded Zog recant his absurd findings, publicly denounce the experience, and reassert his commitment to pure, unfeeling objectivity. Zog looked up from the vibrantly colored bloom in his hand. To his surprise, he felt no anger or resentment, only a quiet sort of pity tinged with, yes, amusement. He smiled, a small, genuine curve of lips. The senior scientist recoiled, a flicker of unease crossing his impeccably disciplined features. The Galactic Cooperative could label him insane. That was fine. He knew something they didn't. That insanity, this beautiful, terrible maelstrom the humans called emotion, was perhaps far closer to the truth of existence than all their careful charts and controlled equations ever could be. As the sun dipped below the horizon, casting long shadows across the perfectly manicured garden, Zog laughed. It started as a hesitant chuckle and then became full-throated, joyful laughter that echoed off sterile walls. It wasn't the laughter of madness. It was the laughter of someone finally set free,